Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host. And today, guys, we are going to be talking about project management and accounting. I think these two are the perfect ones to pair together because in project management, you're going to have your simple things, right? Project status, project updates. What resources do you need on the project? How's it going, right? Simple stuff, right? Client interface, status updates, getting people all the right resources that they need. That's kind of the simple overview of project management. And then accounting is all the numbers that you need to manage the firm. So really, this is a management episode about numbers, accounting, project management, and without further ado, let's dive in. So project management, one person might be overseeing 10, 50, 100 different projects. I know for some of the smaller things that we do, we have some smaller clients, some smaller projects, which have a lot of really higher turn cycles. So at a given time, there might be like 5 or 10 projects kind of in the queue that we just turn through on a given like weekly basis, right? Some smaller stuff that takes not as much time to get through, and you really just turn and burn through them. So there's just a lot more management there of, assigning the project, invoicing the project, giving project deliverables to it, following up on billing from the last projects. Again, just high volume of work, lower dollar amounts, but higher kind of management costs, if you will, for those projects. So in this case, what you want to do is have, if a given team member is working on, let's say, 10 of these a week, that really from a management standpoint, a project manager, or in this case, it would be like a department manager, can really have 7 people is about the number of kind of people that they're able to manage. And so if you have somebody that's allocating, doling out projects, and then that given individual is working on anywhere from basically 7 to 10 projects a week, and you do that for 7 people, now you're working on 70 projects a week across that one project manager. So in this case, it's still very doable to do because they're not doing the work. Their day is just spent managing the projects, right? Resource allocation, is the project done, making sure invoicing happens on it, keeping track of all the clients, where the project statuses are, assigning project numbers, updating billing and accounting, right? That's ultimately going to be their job, and doing all the administrative things, and then project reviews as well. So, their day is probably going to be broken up into project reviews in either the morning or the afternoon. And then the other side of that is going to be like all the accounting and bookkeeping pieces of it. So something to keep in mind, depending on your project size, is you're going to have kind of that. What happens ultimately in the design world, where you have larger projects, fewer projects to be managed, is one of two things. Either you have basically a dedicated project manager to like a handful of large projects. They see where they're at. They're keeping tabs on the owner stuff, accounting, invoicing, all those pieces as well. And then they're just checking in with the owner. So in some of this, like, you got to have those people dedicated to it. And in big projects, there does happen to be a lot of paperwork that come with them. There's a lot of design and review. And usually the project managers are also the like reviewers of it to make sure all the scope is taken care of, that everything is ultimately detailed and outlined within the, again, design side on the drawings. And so we want to make sure that those project managers have the time to allocate correctly and appropriately to each of those projects. And this is one of the things that we want to make sure happens and occurs. And then they're updated, right, on a weekly basis, percent complete, where we're at in the project. Are we invoicing and billing correctly for it? Are clients paying on time for these projects? And that's really the other thing that I want to talk about as far as like accounting goes for these given projects, is most of the time your project managers are going to be the one that's, saying when it's complete, what percentage complete those projects are, where we are with the project. And so a lot of this comes down to project managers, clients, owners being updated on all of these things. So the PM needs to understand where it is. They need to understand the the billing. They need to know whether the client has paid or not, because this goes back to being able to say either to the client or internally to the team, yes, we're working on this, or no, we're not. Like, Mr. Client, you have not paid us in 100 days for work that's been invoiced. Your invoices are 100 days past due. Ergo, we're not going to be working on your project anymore until all of your invoices are going to be brought current. Now, we're not going to be liable for any schedule delays that this causes because of your payment problems, right? Until you pay, then we'll resume work at that time. So you need to be able to have all those conversations, but also the project manager needs to know that, like, hey, Mr. Client hasn't paid us, and we're not going to work on this project anymore. So all of this is really, really important to note and understand for your projects, giving the project managers the right financial information on their projects and allowing you to kind of progress down the line. So what this amounts to from an accounting standpoint is you need to have really good accounting numbers. So your accountants, and there's kind of multiple different levels, right? So for your project managers, they've got to know the numbers for their given projects, where they are, their profit and loss on the project, basically how much time has been used on the project to what the budget of the project was. Are they on track? Are they on or over? And some of this is honestly how a lot of projects get done from a profit and loss statement is basically on the design side is either the team wasn't apprised of it, or the team has no control over it, or they kind of basically had no input as to the design budget for the project, right? How many hours they could spend on it. So this creates a lot of animosity, honestly, within design firms. So either you don't track P&Ls for projects, or you do, and then the team doesn't care, whatever about it. I feel that you need to have some level of accountability around it and really understand what those numbers look like, how to push your team, how to get buy-in from the team as to the design hours for a given project, and then ultimately what you should bill on the other side of it. Some of that you can't control, like those are the numbers to win the project, and then you're just going to deal with the downstream consequences of it. So this one's a little more difficult, nuanced, and really it's going to be in your culture of it. I just find design firms are terrible with money because nobody ever talks about it. They never talk about money allocation. They never talk about money in the firm. They don't educate their team at all around money. And so money becomes a harder conversation for anybody to have because it's just not discussed. Where you talk to contractors, right? They're in the costs of everything all day, right? Whether an outlet costs $10, $100, they know and understand what the cost implications of those choices are. They understand what a man hour costs. They understand how many man hours or thousands of man hours are going to go into a project. Like all of this is highly implicated within, the designs, and they deal in costs and dollars all day, every day. So contractors typically have a better sense of what things cost, what time savings looks like, why time savings is important, and ultimately how it can help a project. So basically hugely important to know your costs, to understand it, and just to help improve the financial literacy of your entire team. So moving up the kind of chain here, when we talk about accounting and numbers that teams should know. So you have your project manager level, then you have your project executive. So they should have basically the collective of all projects that they're in charge of. And then this just goes to the ownership team, right? So that the ownership team will have a total level of the firm, or your executive team will have a total level of the firm. And how you want to split this up between your project executives and their projects to PMs and whatnot. So really going all the way up to the top of the firm is, here's probably the numbers that you need to have and look at at least monthly. We do this mostly weekly, is like sales, either last month or last week, cash collected last month, last week, sales year to date, just knowing how you are doing year to date. And you can look at year over year. So what your growth rate is, expenses, week, month, year, profit and loss statement for the year. You could do it on the month as well. And then receivables, right? who hasn't paid, how far it's outstanding are they on their invoices. And this is all just like basic numbers. But again, we don't have a financial literacy within engineering firms in particular, design firms in particular. Like nobody looks at the numbers, nobody understands the numbers, nobody sees them on a regular basis. And so this creates a ignorance around money, what things cost, what your basically sales or costs are. And we all just, it's like, I don't have any control over anything, so I'm not going to worry about anything. I can't do it anyway. So, and who the hell cares, right? And so that's ultimately the attitude you get in a lot of design firms, which is what we want to try to avoid, right? It's giving people an education, giving them some literacy around these numbers, around finances, and helping them improve everything that they ultimately do for you, for your firm, and can make better decisions because they're informed. How much you do or not, I mean, this is totally up to you. But this is, these are numbers that we use on a, weekly, monthly basis. And it's really helped to understand, what our sales should be, what our expenses look like, what we've been investing in, what our, obviously salary payroll numbers are, what cash collected is, who pays on time, who doesn't, what good clients look like, what our P&Ls are, what our growth rate is, when we should expect to be looking at hiring. Like these are all super important things to talk about and look at as we continue to grow and just running your firm, right? You got to have all these numbers and education, and then it helps you make better decisions into what projects to go after, who to put on projects, who's managing projects well, who's profitable, who's not profitable. These are all like, you need to have the data and insights to ultimately make these decisions. And without any of that, you're never going to be able to make better decisions around who to keep on a project, who to move off a project, who to put back into kind of a workhorse type role. So think about this as you basically move forward through projects, and it'll help you guys so much in improving the output of your team. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this helps. And that's my big takeaways from really running better project management and better accounting resources. So guys, that's this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Until next time.